All right, what's up, everybody? It is August of 2024, and in my 38 years in mortgage, I haven't seen a month just like this one. Now, I will say in my 38 years in mortgage, it's hard to think of specific times when there's major market shifts happening that are like other ones. Like if you've been doing this long enough, you realize that every shift and every major change in the industry is really unique. There's not a lot that have things in common, but this is a big shift. You know, we have the NAR settlement coming into play, which is truly a multi-decade shift in how real estate is done. I think it's a big deal. We'll see what Brian Hale thinks. We're starting to see signs of rates take a break and start to come down, and I personally am starting to see signs of hope. People are like, oh, like good times are coming. We'll see what Brian says, and who better to have a monthly conversation with than legend, icon, leader, Brian Hale. What's up, Brian?
Dave, how you doing, man? I certainly can agree with you, and certainly this week has been just a roller coaster for people. So you touched on a couple of things I'd be glad to chat about. From how are people feeling? Is it an iconic change? What's going on with the realtor commission settlement and the impact of that? Actually, I have a fabulous guest coming on the weekly roadmap on Friday, September 6th, Stu Stewart from Place, who was
Ooh, that's a big one.
was the global CEO for Berkshire Hathaway for 7 or 8 years as well on the real estate side. And I don't know anybody who knows as much about what's going on in that real estate business and how it's going to impact it than Stu. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation, getting his perspective out to my group as well. So be glad to share it back with your team.
Yeah, no, I
I
would
did see
love.
an interesting stat this morning that the average buy side commissions has begun to shrink.
Yeah, I heard that. I did not see the data, but I heard that, and I'm hearing more and more uh, leaders in the know say that there will the belief is there will definitely be commission compression. So anyone listening to this, Brian mentioned the weekly roadmap. Make sure you check that out. We're going to put a link down below. Brian has a special community that he provides weekly leadership. And it's just like having Brian as an executive in your company. So if you're like a individual LO that wants to have weekly leadership from Brian, you should check it out. And if you're an executive that wants to get weekly leadership from Brian Hale, it's just a great place to know that you're going to get a 90-minute briefing with Q&A. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But Brian, so by the way, how is that going? I mean, you're a little over a month into
Yeah, look,
launching.
I think we're making good progress. As you know, we started on a real soft launch. I wanted to make sure we had our technology and our process and deck and follow up and the community. And we've made a ton of iterations. We took some of your advice early on. We appreciated that. And others have had advice and suggestions. And so we're actually just now going to a broad outreach in the industry. We're reaching out to about 75,000 originators that we have good contact information on, and we'll have the other 40,000 contacts soon. We're changing a little bit and evolving our social media strategy on that. And we're out to wholesale companies as well that are distributing it out to their mortgage brokers.
Awesome.
Who I think are really an audience that could use this kind of information and insight weekly. And so time will tell. And we've had some interest come in for people to collaborate with us and do other things as well as part of it. So, we're early. I think I told you when I started this, I expected it would take me a year to really build an audience and get some value out to the communities. And now what I have is content, right? I've got 5 or 6 of these under our belt, and so we're distributing some of that content for free. And it right now the weekly roadmap is free through the month of August. So if anybody wants to come in and get a taste, you can decide whether it's something that's you're looking for or not, and we go on from there. So
Cool. Well, there's going to be a link down below. Everybody, check it out. Brian,
thanks, man.
always appreciate your industry leadership in the market. So let's have a chat. Like,
By the
what's
way, I have to say, I got a couple of nice notes just in the last week, and then kind of unsolicited about these conversations with you and
oh,
how
good.
impactful it's been with people. They, just encouraging me us to do more.
Yeah, I get the same feedback in the market where people like really appreciate this call. So let's keep doing this. And so it is the beginning of August. You know, we're a week into it. We're a week away from the NAR settlement. But what are the data points that you want to draw? Like whether it's a C-suite executive or it's a mortgage professional, what, you know, there's a lot of noise and then there's signal. What's
Yeah.
the Brian Hale signal?
Yeah, well, there's some signal that clearly this week has, first of all, I think it's been a whipsaw week, which is about the worst kind of week you can have in our business. We started on Monday morning following the jobs report last Friday. The stock sell off on Friday over the weekend. And then, of course, the Japanese Nikkei sold way off. Our Dow and NASDAQ and, you know, S&P 500 sold off massively on Monday, and bonds were rallying wildly, right? I woke up at 4:30 in the morning on Monday morning to see a 10-year trading at 364, right? And the reason I was up at 4:30 in the morning is I had an emergency board meeting with a client at 5:15 in the morning as a result of you know, big margin call that was looking at, and I think a lot in the industry were having those kinds of conversations. People were literally quickly raising cash to make margin calls. And it was triggered by the jobs report, but also had a very technical trigger having nothing to do with our industry, which is what's called the unwinding of the yen carry trade, where large investors were buying stocks using Japanese currency, where the yen and the interest rates in Japan were very cheap, and then buying stocks. As the Bank of Japan raised rates, they started to unravel that. They had to sell everything in sight. So stocks came down and money flowed into bonds. And so we got this big downward, and people are like, finally, lower rates, baby. We're in the mid sixes. Life is good. We're going to be in the fives. I actually had an M&A deal fail this week.
Oh,
been working on for 7 months because the seller thought, you know what, maybe I've made it through. Maybe times are going to be good again. And he pulled out. And whether or not that holds up today, because we crested 4% today on the 10-year and rates are going the wrong direction, owing to a jobs report, or a weekly jobless claims number this morning that the market massively overreacted to, which tells you the market is nervous in that process. So we sit here today with higher rates than we had a week ago. And in the meantime, we were at all-time lows since 2022 on Monday.
right.
And so, you know, the two things you can't control in our business, two things that are really critical: interest rates and a regulatory environment, right? And you have literally zero control of either, and all you can do is react. And so it's been a kind of a crazy week where I think a lot of people were thinking, I was thinking on Monday, well, there goes my M&A business, right? If people feel like they survived the last 2 years and now it's going to get better, why sell? And, you know, those kinds of things. My advice on Monday and Tuesday was sit tight, because I'm not sure this technical thing with the yen carry trade is going to hold, and it did not. And the market has come back the other way with a vengeance. And now we're waiting. There's no really important data in my view. And oh, by the way, we had a 10-year auction this week, 10-year treasury auction that went horribly. And so you put all those things together, we don't really have a significant number to drive the market until September 6th, which is the next jobs report, right? And so that's just that component. And to your point, people are looking over the fence, also wondering about the real estate commission issue and what's the impact of that. And so welcome to the mortgage business. You said
Yeah, right.
38, I got you by 4 years. Crazy times, my friend, crazy times.
Yeah, it is. It is a changing time, but to me, it's times like this are when great companies and great operators in the business gain market share and truly distinguish themselves. Any other data points before we just get into, you know, advice and strategy? Because I did come to this with some really clear ideas, because I've been interviewing a lot of
So
people.
the last but not least, and look, different people have a different view on this topic. The real estate commission thing, I'm still not, in my own mind, convinced that this is going to be, I think it's going to be material, to use your terms. I think this is a big change in how real estate gets sold in the US. But the impact on mortgage, I think I see an awful lot of people navel gazing and trying to decide, what does this mean? And should I change my strategies and those kinds of things at a time when, first of all, I don't think we absolutely know exactly what the outcome of this is going to be and how you should set your strategies around it. I think commissions are going to get compressed in the real estate business at some level. I don't think they're going to zero. I think some people will leave the business, but oh, hey, by the way, almost 100,000 originators have left our business in the last 2 years, right? And my coaching back to salespeople and sales leaders has been, you know what I would do right now? I would just focus on knowing the great referral sources in my market and how I help them sell more real estate and how I help educate them on what's going on in the market and deepening my relationship and trying to gain share. And these other things are going to happen and they're going to evolve out and it'll become more clear over time. And we're going to then have to react. I think the most core competency in our business, Dave, if you think about toolboxes of competencies that whether you're an originator or sales leader or executive, whatever the case may be, the ability to adapt and react.
Oh, you're getting right ahead of one of the cornerstone concepts I wanted to share.
Work
Yeah.
on that, right? If you ever hear these words come out of your own mouth, it's how I've always done it, man. I think it's a mistake.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Are you familiar with the term the OODA loop?
I am, but I don't know that I could recite what it stands for.
It stands for observe, orient, decide, and act.
Yeah.
And it came from the military.
Yeah.
One of
It's a
the
Marine thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't. I think he might have been a Marine pilot, and he was like the best dog fighter. I can't remember all the details, but it was, we were beating, and I want to say the MiGs, but they were a better plane. So air to air, they should have really beat us in dogfights, but he was winning, all time.
Yes.
And after the war, they kind of analyzed like, how's he winning? And it came down to this framework of observe, orient, decide, and act. And then I can't remember who shared it with me. It was over 10 years ago that someone shared it with me, but I've applied that principle my entire career, that the faster you can run this OODA loop, the faster you can win. You can adopt to market changes. And so I actually, in my Monday morning video on LinkedIn, I'm doing a Monday leadership message to producing managers. I was like, it's OODA loop time. Like focus on observing, oriented.
I think I responded to that post on Monday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So what I know you agree. I don't have to like, oh, do you agree with that, Brian? But what are some things, because you've led some really big teams at really high levels, you coach a lot of folks. What is some practical advice on going into a market like this where, what are the mistakes you're seeing people make in not running good OODA loops? And what are the best practices to running good OODA loops from a Brian Hale perspective?
Yeah, well, this will sound like a setup for Dave Savage and Mortgage Coach, but I mean this. I was just having a conversation with one of the top sales executives in the business just yesterday. You would know her well. I don't want to use her name, but her frustration of her sales force having tons of tools that her company has invested in, yours included, by the way.
Yeah.
And the lack of engagement by certain segments of the sales force in utilizing the tools. So said a little harshly, use the damn tools you have that your company has invested in and know them and understand how to execute on them and how to deploy them. And to some degree, forgive me for this, but stop bitching. If you're not using all of those tools, please don't come and complain to me as a sales leader until you've gone out and executed on the stuff that we have provided, right? And so I think that's one. Two, it's a topic you and I have talked about probably 14 times on these calls. Targeted marketing The simple concept of doing business with people who actually sell real estate as opposed to people who are in real estate, and knowing the difference and knowing where to apply your time, effort, tools, marketing, relationship development, those kinds of things with people who sell real estate. And so do you know of the top 10% of agents in the country, and some of you work with builders and some of you have other strategies, do you know who those key players are in your market? Are they your referral clients? If not, do you know who they're working with and why? And what are you doing about it?
Right.
What are you doing about it? Right. But using data, if I can repeat it again, data, right, to identify who you should be calling on, and then having a plan, a defined time blocked plan to execute. One of the things I'm trying to lead by example, that I've been harping on this in my weekly roadmap calls, I give them a bunch of data update and market update at the beginning of each of those calls. And I encourage people to take a slide or two out of the deck that we send out and immediately record a bonbon video or some kind of video, attach a couple slides and send it out to your mortgages under management, using your term, the mums, right? The folks that are in your CRM or database and or your referral network immediately. Just 30 seconds, boom, out, stay in front. Are you delivering value to your referral sources? Are you delivering value to your customers? Are you delivering value to your mortgages under management? And are you pushing those pedals every day, every week on a consistent, thoughtful, strategic approach? How's that? So I'll get off my soapbox here for a minute.
No, it's a good soapbox. I liked it a lot. I wanna play. I can't remember who forwarded this to me, but someone forwarded this to me a week ago, and I want to write a LinkedIn post. And maybe you and I could write a LinkedIn post around this little LinkedIn video. I'm gonna play it real quick, and then I want to unpack it. And actually, I think this is going to hit LinkedIn in the next couple of days, but it's what the mortgage industry and specifically IMBs can learn from In-N-Out Burger. So you're going to like this. Listen to this, and then let's you and I unpack it.
Burgers every year at each location at $5 a burger. Do you want to know what their secret is? It's somewhere that no one ever looks. Check this out.
So by the way, we missed the first part, but he makes the point that every location sells $5 million a year in burgers. And what's the secret? Here's the secret, guys.
This is the secret sauce to In-N-Out success. Why is In-N-Out successful? So first of all, they offer an amazing product, but they also offer elevated hospitality, and they offer both those things consistently. Their average age of their employees is 20 years old, which means they're training a very young staff to provide consistent hospitality. How are they doing that? The formula is right here. First, you start with appropriate pay, but just because you pay someone well does not mean they're going to perform well. They have to have other things like the right kind of training. In-N-Out has systematized, consistent training that's mapped out from the get-go, and that's a huge part of consistent training. If you want your employees in a restaurant, even if it's a full service restaurant, if you want them to perform at a high level, you have to give them the right tools from the very beginning. On top of that, In-N-Out has amazing culture because everyone's bought into the system because it's a mindset. You have to be training your staff a mindset. They have to believe what they're doing and believe in what they're doing. The leadership is a part of that too. The leadership has to be providing that mindset training constantly, every single day, talking about what the mission is, what the goals are, and what we're there to accomplish. And lastly, systems. Everything runs off of systems at In-N-Out every step of the way. If you don't have systems in your restaurant, in your full service restaurant, that's costing you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of headache. But if you get high level systems down, if you get the culture down, and if you get the training down, you're gonna get consistent hospitality mixed with a consistent elevated product. You're gonna be a part of that small club. In-N-Out sells four.
So,
amen, brother.
Right. Amen. And so, we know loan officers get paid appropriately on a loan. Like, it's a lot of money to do a loan, and we know they have tools. So speaking to the leadership, we got tools, but are we giving them the effective training we need in order for them to use it?
No.
Are we creating the culture to where, like, this is the standard? This is like, if being a data-driven advisor is the best way to grow a profitable mortgage industry in any market, are we delivering the culture? And then have we really systemized it? Have we really, because as a technologist, I've been frustrated before where, we'll roll out an integration and it'll be like what I call the check the box integration. Like, Yep, we checked the box. But did we really create a unified user experience? And did we iteratively improve it so it's just getting better and better? And are we training? And are we delivering culture? And
Are we measuring if the training stuck?
yeah, so let's have a Brian Hale breakdown on that. What did you like from that? And do you think the industry could get value from it?
Yeah. So first of all, let me take my immediate response back just one step, which is when I said no, the industry's not training. I'm sure some and many are. I would say this: most aren't well. They're either using show how training, right? Let me talk to you about 4,000 miles an hour, Dave. Let me show you all the keystrokes, right? And people, brand new employees are like, what? What'd you say? Right? What did he say? Right? Like it doesn't stick, right? They don't measure those kinds of things. So I'm a believer. I don't know if I've ever used this with you or not, but I'm a believer in the rule of 50 from Dr. Michael Hammer.
Yeah.
Wrote this great book back in the 80s. And the rule of 50 basically says when you're trying to communicate with your employees or other associates, you have to tell people things 50 times and another 50 times and another 50 times. And about then they go, you talking to me? Right?
Right.
It's got to be so consistent, delivered. It's got to be part of the culture, training, development, onboarding, getting people up to speed, and then systematizing the process, making it effectively dummy proof, right? So that people can just do the work efficiently and deliver and focus on delivering great service and great relationship management and those kinds of things. And I think an originator can do all of that inside their own company without regard to what the company is doing. It'd be great if all companies did that well. Most don't. We just, Maria Elena on my team.
Oh yeah.
Just picked up, 5 new training engagements that where she's helping people develop training and onboarding and follow up and assessing what they're doing now for this very issue. Because we have a client who's growing, they're up threefold since the last quarter, right, in terms of volume. So they're actually adding, that drill. People are adding people left and right. One, are you hiring the right ones? Are they have the right underlying skills? Are you training them well? Are you inculcating them with the proper culture? And if you've got bad trainers or bad training, or you don't test and measure your training, you don't know. And now that person is carrying your brand forward. And it would be like, In-N-Out Burger not cooking the burgers because somebody forgot to tell the cook that you got to actually cook them. You don't just slap them in a piece of bread, cold, right?
Right.
So you wanna ruin repeat business? Give them raw hamburgers. Right.
Right.
I mean, it's simple. Sounds like, how would they do that? Well, you've been in some other restaurants where that's not the case.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I actually just realized that I wrote this last week, but I posted it yesterday. And tell me what you think of these strategies. So I gave, anybody watching this, I'll put a link to that video for any managers and leaders. I recommend, consider playing this for your team. It is a real world example of just how a great world-class business that has nothing to do with the mortgage, has everything to do about mortgage. And here's where I did it, because I knew mortgage people would look at it and go, well, yeah, but those are employees. You tell them what to do and they do it.
No.
True. Well, it is true, but guys, what do you think about this,
did
Brian?
Did they hear what you told them to do? And
Yeah.
how do you know?
Yeah. And how did you measure it? But here were 4 things that I thought would be practical advice to an IMB is gamify conversion rates. Like measure that right there is going to tell you how effective are their conversations
Yes.
with folks. And anyone listening to this, if you're a loan officer, gamify your own conversion rate. Like that is going to make you efficient. Compete on loans per month per loan officer. Like that's an efficiency that will tell you how effective is your sales force. And how do you benchmark yourself against the market? Use data to drive excellence. Train, obsess over turning your loan officers. Of course, I want them to be trust engine powered mortgage coaches. I think the world would be better off. The industry would be better off. Consumers would be better off. What are your thoughts on those little nuggets? Anything you would add?
Yeah, I think if you clicked on the comments on that post was where I responded. I think that might have been the post where I said, absolutely, Dave, or something to that effect. So first of all, far be it from Brian Hale to give Dave Savage, the mortgage coach, any coaching.
I'll take the coaching.
I might take out the word gamify because I'm not sure everybody understands what that means.
Okay, I'll delete it right now.
And just simply replace it with, measure conversion rates. I mean, just measure and report out conversion rate by originator, right? And that'll tell you a lot about what's going on in your business. But first of all, I agree with everything you put in there. Here's one of the problems I see in the industry, Dave, is that the industry has moved almost exclusively to non-producing managers, producing managers.
Yeah, to producing manager, right?
To producing managers. And, I've never been a fan of trying to fight with human nature. And so if I'm a producing manager and I'm making $120, $140 on my own business, and I'm a pretty busy, successful originator, and I'm making 20 or 30 basis points override on your business, I know what my priority is. It's my business, not your business, not making you better. Right. And so I think that's an inherent problem in our business today. And most companies have either eliminated or materially reduced their training teams because of cost. And so we have a real issue of who's going to train. I think smart ones, you and I've talked about Champanazian before. And I think he meets with his team 3 times a week. He measures, he coaches, he teaches, he scripts, he does, and he focuses on bringing in leads. He's not a 1%er in my view. He's a 1/10 of 1%er.
Yeah.
In terms of his time investment. And so I couldn't agree more. I think the challenge in the industry is who's going to train. Oh, by the way, I don't know how many branch managers there are in the industry. I could probably figure it out. I'm going to bet you that at least 70, if not 80%, are terrible trainers. Why? They've never been taught how to train. They're show-how trainers. Stand over my shoulder and I'll show you how. That's not training, right? That's demonstrating. That's not training. And so how do you train to get people to adapt and then use the tools? Because I think part of the problem with lack of engagement on tools is people are uncomfortable because they don't really know how to use them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I've had a fairly unique formula, and using the YouTube channel is the heart of that, where
Yep.
I have intentionally, thoughtfully interviewed top producers that are good trainers. Like,
Yes.
not every trainer is a great trainer,
Agreed.
but in every company, there are some great trainers.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And so what I've done is, first of all, through the YouTube channel, interviewed them. And every time I'm doing an interview, not only are we putting it into the greater good of the industry, we're also using it intentionally internally. And then we have like this the coach philosophy, where when we roll out, we're like, who are the most influential, highest quality trainers? Hopefully a few of those as we roll out are already playing the Trust Engine Mortgage Coach game.
Yep.
But let's just say we're rolling out to a big company with hundreds of loan officers, and we got a couple that are already playing the game. We know who 8 others are, and now we're trying to build this the coach community where we're leaning it, because you can't give absolute inspirational world-class proactive training to 300 people. But you know what? You could do that with 8 or 12. And so having the intention,
3 or 2.
yeah, but whatever the number is, I think it's 1 to 100. If you have the right 1 to 100 loan officers that are empowered, and the other thing is they need to understand that when it comes to salespeople, you can't just click here, click there, click there. It's about mindset. It's about sales strategy.
Yeah.
And then it's about click here and click there.
Yeah. I think it's also about hires, right? Because if you said it well, not all trainers are good trainers. Not all managers are good trainers. Not all managers are good managers. And so, poor training is terrible and not helpful. And secondly, you have to make sure in your hires that you find people who are looking for that. I'm interviewing Joe Massey from Castle and Cook this Friday, tomorrow,
Oh, nice.
as on the weekly roadmap. He's a killer and has built a phenomenal purchase business in Colorado by educating realtors, and he became certified to grant realtors continuing ed credits for attending his 1-hour courses. And it's exactly how I built my business when I was an originator. So obviously I gravitate to the guy, but he has showed this system to tons of other originators who then never did it. And so the one thing I don't think you can coach or teach is the will to try. And so that's a hiring thing in my view. How do you hire people who have the will to try? Then if you give them the tools, they'll try and fail and try and fail and try and get better and try and get better, then try and get great. Right? That's the other part. So I think I've always said, leaders require two things. One's a willingness to lead, and the other is people willing to follow. And it's the same thing in training. So
Cool. So before we run out of time, another topic I want to go, and if you have any, let me know. But I shared a post from our buddy Jeff Walton today, and I'm sure you saw this, where he made a post showing that 5.4 million households have an interest rate above 6.5.
yep.
And I did an interview with a top producer and a producing leader, Josh Metal, on Tuesday, where he did just a masterclass on how can a half a point, 3/4 of a point, does that make sense to refi? And so a big opportunity is coming our way in terms of 5.4 million households with that interest rate.
There's 1.8 million above 7%.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. Another data point from Brian Hale.
Oh, it's actually, I got to give Jeff Walton from Ingenious credit on that, because he put that out on a post the other day and I used it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Brian Hale scale, how prepared are IMBs to optimize this opportunity right now?
I don't know what is less than 0 or 1.
You think that bad?
I think a lot of IMBs have capacity, clearly, right? I mean, but
Well,
remember,
capacity is not prepared.
no, that's exactly right. That's just step one to prepared, right? So you have capacity. Now the question becomes, have you refreshed your renegotiation policy? And do all those new originators that you hired in the last 2 years know what your reno policy is? And so when you get into this refi boom, and then if rates keep going down, what do? I don't know. What's the policy? I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed them or not, but I've put a couple of social media LinkedIn posts out where I'm recording myself for a minute or two, driving in my car at 5:30 in the morning down the Pacific Coast Highway on the way to the gym.
I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
it. I like
So
it. By the way.
one of the things I've been harping about, and I'm going to harp again tomorrow, is, are you talking to your past customers today about their refi strategy over the next 6 or 12 months?
Yeah.
Because here's what I'll guarantee you. Somebody is, some very smart competitor is, and they're out bombing your customer left and right, and they haven't heard from you. And so you're going to come in from behind. And so I encourage you, and maybe that, that 6.5 that Jeff put out, they're not in the money today at 6.5 for a refi, unless it's cash out or debt consol or something. And oh, by the way, consumer debt is at record high levels and savings are almost low record levels. So there's opportunity there. But the real refi crush will come from rolling rates down. And 6.5 is not in the money, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be having an interview with that customer now and helping them understand what's going on in the market. What's the mark where they would be interested? You need to know that, and you need to be communicating with them on the day that it hits.
Yeah. Amen. So just anyone watch this, there is a refi optimize or optimize refi playlist in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel with scripts, with strategies. One of the tactics that we covered on Tuesday was get your strike price list out. Just like what Brian said, you're out getting people prepared to, what's the strike price, and then make sure that you your loan officers are trained in how to deliver a very effective refi proposal. And if the refi proposal doesn't show, hey, here's what you have versus what you could have, and most loan officers are just going to talk about what is the monthly savings. If they're not showing the compounded interest over 5 years, 7 years, different periods of time, it's not optimized. And then if they're not showing how you could take that monthly savings, prepay your mortgage, and in many cases, take 7 years off your mortgage. So it ends up being like improve your cash flow and reduce your term. Like if your loan officers aren't really trained on these skills, we can help you with that. That's what we do here at Mortgage Coach. Brian?
I was just going to add a couple of thoughts. First of all, it's always shocked me in my 42 years, the number of customers who are Rumpelstiltskins. We think because we live in the mortgage business, everybody follows the 10-year 16 times a day. The average consumer does not. They don't even know what the hell you're talking about, right? Secondly, they don't know that rates are down yet until it shows up on the front page of the USA Today on a Tuesday. Nobody knows. Three, they'll look at it, for the average consumer, they will be distrustful, I think, and I've seen it live, of their existing lender calling up to suggest, I'll give you a better interest rate, because they think like a bank used to think. Why would the bank want to reduce my interest rate? There's got to be a problem in here somewhere, right? I don't know if I trust this, because the consumer doesn't understand that you're not paid off interest, you're paid off servicing revenue and all that. And it's actually more valuable to the mortgage company to have a lower rate loan in their portfolio. And so you've got a lot to overcome, and it's not obvious. Now, the higher end buyer, they'll refi out like that for 0.5% or 0.25% and do it multiple times.
Mortgage Coach for me gives me a professional.
Sorry about that, everybody.
The average consumer is busy feeding their family, going to work every day and dealing with their kids, and this isn't top of mind unless you call them up or send them something or have an interview with them to help explain what's going on, why, when are they ready, what can you do to help them, and let's go from there and begin to build that bridge so you get first shot.
Yeah, love that. Well, guys, at the top of our channel, we have optimized refis, getting ahead of NAR. Make sure you sign up. Free sign up for the weekly roadmap by Brian Hale. Like what an absolute gold mine. Brian, anything else you want to make sure we hit before we run out of time today?
Yeah, can I share one quick thing?
Share anything. Share your screen. Share anything you want.
Yeah, here, hold on. You've seen this before. My favorite. It's my favorite guy, right? T-Rex. Don't be a T-Rex. Don't see everything evolving around you. Everything is changing. Everything has changed. And that's why I react to, well, that's how I've always done it, right? That guy ruled the world for 300 million years, and he's extinct. Extinct.
Right.
Because he couldn't adapt. He wouldn't adapt. He had a brain the size of a walnut. You're blessed with a much bigger brain and better gray matter. Adapt. Be aware of what's going on. Use the tools available to you and be out talking to these customers so you don't miss the next great opportunity in the mortgage business.
Lead in real quick with a closing thought to managers, because you kind of like your closing thought was use the technology. And how would you communicate that to a manager, a producing regional, a producing manager? Give the Brian Hale pep talk and direct advice to your managers.
My first answer is model what you expect.
Okay.
Right. So if you have tools, your company has tools you've developed, scripts that work, because that's why you're a manager and a top producer. Have you codified those scripts, shared them with your people, done some training, done some play acting with them, gone through, sat on a couple of calls with them and refined their skills, right? So first of all, model what you expect, use the tools, show how, and then look to measure and see how people are adapting to that process. That's,
so lead by example. If there was one thing you would push everyone watching this right now is, attention managers, model what you're doing, And if there was another
Model what you want your people to be doing, right?
model with your people,
Right.
and then how about actually have a sales meeting? Like, guys, good time. Have a sales meeting.
By the way, even if you don't want to do that, attend the weekly roadmap and I'll do the sales meeting for you and give you the whole deck.
Boom. I
Right.
like the way you squeeze that in there.
Right.
Right.
But on a serious note, you can then get the deck and I prepare the staff meeting for you.
Yeah. No, I love it. I
With
love
content,
it.
right? And so, but yes, get in front of your folks, get out of your own space and help others. You too will do well, because you know, one of the things I find, Dave, I don't know if it does for you, but I've done a lot of training in my life of originators and others. And when I'm training, I'm relearning. I'm, reteaching myself that which I already knew.
Yeah, no, such a good closing thought that to learn something so well you can teach it. You're going to make more money, and there's a tremendous opportunity. So I'm going to wrap it up, Brian. I feel like this was another great monthly update. Hopefully anyone watching this, you're getting value. Hopefully you'll share this to your leadership team, share this to your managers. Make sure you check out, free offer, sign up for the weekly roadmap. We'll have a link down below, but it's easy to Google, and he already gave you the website. So it doesn't get any easier than that. Anything else, Brian?
That's it, man. Always
right.
great doing this, and my best to your audience.
All right. Get out there, kick butt. If you have questions for Brian and I, we'll be doing this again in September. Let us know what your questions are. Follow Brian on LinkedIn. There's a lot of noise on social media. Brian Hale on LinkedIn is not noise. It's pure leadership, pure value. Take care, everybody. Hope you got value.
Same back to you, Dave. Thanks.